Get ready for live.
Yeah, but we are live?
Yes, Julian.
Okay. Hi, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session of Let Us Talk It Older Youth Group session. This is a time which is not what we expected and which we thought would never come, but it is. We are going through a pandemic. We are going through uncertain times, but definitely talking a little bit about how we can give a new perspective to deal with this COVID situation is what our panelists have thought to be the topic today. So it is the youth perspective on COVID. And we hope that you can join in the Zoom session and interact with the panelists. If you have your thoughts or suggestions, please do so. After the session is, for 30 to 40 minutes, and after that we will have the interaction session. So we would love to hear your feedback, your ideas to how to deal with the situation, how to help each other. So we start our session today. We have our panelists all ready. So all the best. And over to you, Vivan. He will be the moderator for this week's session. Vivan.
Yeah. Thank you, Auntie. We're going to be doing our perspective on COVID, how COVID impacts us and our world. Okay. Quick brief table of contents are about us, our problems, our solutions, and Q&A. Yep, like I said, my name's Vivan. I'm a 5th grader at Tredyffrin Easttown Middle School, and I like to use electronics, and I'm particularly interested in medical things, just like this webinar. It's going to be a great one, I think. Yeah, Wish?
Hello there, my name's Vish. I'm a 6th grader at 12th Street West Middle School. Some things I like to do are do pixel art, read, and draw. Today I'll be talking about problems and solutions in vaccinating. You can move on.
Hi, my name is Arush, and I'm a 7th grader at Michigan. And some things I like to do are play video games, watch TV, and read books.
Hi everyone, my name is Mukta and I'm an 11th grader at Rochester High School. Some of my hobbies include dancing and spreading awareness on world issues.
Hello everybody, my name is Farad, and for my topic, it's going to be about how COVID affected technology and how technology will affect COVID. And I really like experimenting around with new technologies and experimenting with science and some other things like that. I hope to see you on my slide.
Hi everyone, my name is Mahadi and I am a 7th grader in Ruther Middle School in Michigan, and some things that I like to do are painting and reading.
Thank you, Mahadi. Now it's time for our slides. So, we all know that it's been hard through COVID, and especially for the doctors and emergency people. They've been working hard to keep the situation under control. So here are a few medical shortages that happens during the pandemic. Ventilators. Ventilators are key because they help a patient breathe while they're being treated or while they're in a bed. It just help it, it allows them to breathe without their lungs functioning properly. But we don't have enough of these, so we can't help the patients. Now we don't have oxygen cylinders. We don't have these. We don't have enough to supply the ventilators. And if we don't have oxygen to supply the ventilators, then the patients can't breathe. Now, doctors and nursing staff. We have less people to treat others, and the nursing is also low. We don't have nurses. Now, testing. We don't have enough labs. We're not testing people if they have COVID or not. But we need to. Vaccination. Vaccination is taking very long. Like right now, it's not very high amount of people who's been vaccinated. And medical supplies. We have less pills, antibiotics, steroids, and drugs to treat patients with. So now, on to the numbers. Africa has a low of 0.1 hospital beds per 1,000 people. Wow, that is very, very low. In fact, India is at 0.3 beds. So 3 to 3.5 beds is what CDC says is the good number, and WHO also approves. Then, now for vaccination. 16 doses per 100 people is the world vaccination distribution. Let's say that it takes 2 doses to be completely vaccinated. Only 8 per 100 people are vaccinated, or 1 out of 12.5. And we have a shortage of 4.3 million physicians, nurses, and doctors. Like I said, we don't have the doctors and nursing staff. This calculation has been performed by the CDC and WHO. And 3.91 million people died of COVID and respiratory disease, including SARS, COVID, and other respiratory diseases. So here are some statistics. As we saw, India came with the highest cases, 401,000 new cases, and it's still rising today. So those are some statistics from the, I think Bloomberg University or something like that. Now, here are some solutions. Murat will cover about ventilators and Vish will cover vaccination, but medical staff. We need more medical staff. How are we going to solve this? I mean, we can't just end up with a magical amount of doctors and nurses. We will have to hire them. But although this solution may be not as efficient, I mean, of course, you can't just keep hiring them. You need to teach them. It takes years to teach at least a few, like a group of doctors and nurses. So how are we going to do this? Well, quick training We'll have to have them work on things they need to know to treat COVID, not necessarily on other things, only on COVID. Then we need oxygen for the ventilators. We will figure out air filter technologies where we'll convert CO2 to oxygen or other compounds. Then we'll also do some testing. Well, since we haven't tested people that much, we need to put testing tents everywhere in rural and urban places. And for medical supplies, we should begin mass production. This mass production spike that I'm talking about has happened before, meaning that we can do it now too. Wish?
Hello. Like I said, I'll be talking about vaccinating problems and solutions. So, Vera, can you go to the next slide? Vivan.
Okay.
Next slide. Okay. The problems in vaccinating are, first of all, like Virat said, we don't have enough doctors to help patients, and two is spreading GERS, producing. Not all countries have enough vaccines to vaccinate their people. Next slide.
Yeah. Quick correction, I'm Pavan, not Virat.
Yeah, I keep forgetting. So some solutions are for vaccinating, people can increase the production in building robots that do vaccinating, and they can improve the program of the robots if people don't feel they're secure enough. And also lowering the prices for the robots so more people around the world can have access. And for production of vaccines, they can make the ability of jobs in manufacturing more realizable. As a fun fact, there's only 3 billion people who have jobs out of 208 billion people in the world. And another solution is they can bring more robots or do the first solution, like hiring. And the outcome for vaccinating would be more people will get not vaccinated. And the production is gonna go faster and people are gonna be able to distribute the vaccines without worrying their country won't have enough. That's all. And now we'll be moving on to the next slide, which is Virat's.
Thank you, Vish. I really like the way that you put in and how they would put in vaccination robots. I didn't know that those existed. It was pretty intriguing. But something you could have covered was RNA and DNA vaccines. They're types of vaccines. They basically, an RNA vaccine uses RNA to manipulate a virus, and the opposite for DNA vaccines. Now Virat, who's going to be talking about technologies. Virat? Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be talking about how COVID affected technology and how technology will affect COVID. So here we go. I'll mention the disadvantages of COVID, the advantages of COVID. Yes, even though COVID is a very deadly virus, it still does have few benefits for technologies, not people. And I'll also be talking about some use cases and some technology that can help us during the pandemic itself. So, here we go. The disadvantages. First, we have COVID's fatality. Famous people and developers go down, causing the media to collapse, including some software that might have been in development by some famous developers, and maybe even apps and other types of software. And also, people like famous people, like singers or artists or actors, whoever they might be going down. People might be just a little bit sad that they went away. Second, COVID scariness. COVID is really scary and the negative impacts take over everybody. This causes an impact of over 75% negative impact. 75% across the whole entire social media. Now that's a big percentage. Next we have the deaths in general, not including any social media. Devs and manufacturers die, causing software and hardware loss, and also copyright rules and all those legal, no, not legal, political things go on, and it causes a lot of chaos. So those are the disadvantages that COVID gives to technology. On to the next slide. Now, the advantages. Yes, I know. So, because of COVID, people go stay inside and online because of COVID rules. We have to stay inside. And since we're online, content creators and people who didn't know they had specific talents and people who just want to do presentations, or like us, where we usually didn't attend the webinars, but now that everybody's online, we found a new talent and thing to do. Watch webinars or attend webinars, or be a panelist or moderator or guest speaker in one of the webinars. So that was one of the advantages. Now, new topics and content come. People make new ideas and fun things to do at home so that it allows a lot
Vivan, your voice is going
like-
down and up too much. Can you please come closer and talk?
Okay. Some social media platforms will increase a lot, like YouTube and TikTok, and others won't. But still, new content and topics begin to arise, like how I get my groceries. And now all these things go around social media, people answering questions, people making fun, and stuff like that. So, that was the second one. Now on to the third one. Not the third slide. Go back. Yeah. Okay, so all the happiness and support. Let's say one of your family members was affected by COVID. With all this, there's still some support. Let's say another part of your family or friends, they were all online. Well, not all, few were online. Then they would cheer you on and help you. So that was about the happiness and support that you can get from your family and the other people just from the media. So, on to the next slide. So, now how technology could help us during the pandemic. Let's say that there was a COVID patient that can't have access to the vaccine or already has COVID and there's no emergency support yet, then a drone with medical supplies can deliver it. Can deliver some medical supplies to keep the patient alive until help arrives. 3D printed mechanical ventilators. Now there are no more autonomous ventilators left, and someone's in danger. 3D printed mechanical ventilators out. You can use these to ventilate people without machines, but it's the way to it's the way to not use electricity, but also it's another way of keeping more available ventilators and automatic mask checkers. An automatic mask checker would look around the room with the camera and see for someone's face. And if the person's face is detected without a mask, then it'll send an alert. And let's say that that person went to another place and they still didn't have their mask, then it would send an alert to their phone if it thinks that were in contact with someone with COVID virus or any other disease, and tell them to quarantine, which leads us to the fourth one, the virtual COVID calendar and support. This would be a calendar. Let's say that you think that you were in contact with COVID. Well, you touched a COVID patient, or you got COVID, or you're facing some COVID symptoms. Then a virtual COVID calendar, depending on the how critical it is and how serious it is, it'll give you some support and a calendar for how long to quarantine yourself. It'll give you some tips with the resources you have to keep yourself alive until the drones come or the emergency helps you. And then next we have blockchain solutions for authentic sources of info people online /SMS. Now this might be a little confusing, but what it basically means is that if someone said that there were ventilators and oxygen tanks and beds, like all the things that you would need to treat a COVID patient were ready for the specific patient or one of your family members, but it was actually just a scam call, then that would leave you in a lot of danger. And if you actually went for it, then you're gonna get scammed. So that's really bad. So the blockchain, if you are part of the blockchain, then you are going to be secure, since there are going to be a lot of security filters. If someone is going to scam call you, well, it won't, because if a connection is unsecure on blockchain, then the whole thing falls apart. So there are a lot of security measures. Now, next we have video and face tracking for COVID alerts. This is basically the same thing as automatic mask checkers, except it has some other types of features too. Not much different. And then finally we have air composition using IoT filters. Now, there are going to be filters that detect the air composition, like how much percent there's COVID, how much percent there's oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, all these things. So, this is my final slide on how technology could help us during the pandemic, and that was all. Thank you, Virat. I love that you brought up all these new solutions, and especially the mask checker one. I didn't know that there were solutions like that. I was just thinking that it would detect if
Vivan, we can barely hear you.
you can hear me. You can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you a little better.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Vish. Yeah. Good job, Virat. I love the part that you gave the automatic mask checker. I thought it would just give you a mask once you enter the building. Yeah. I don't actually have anything to add on. Oh, and Vish, on your previous slide, you put 208 billion people. There are only 10 billion people on Earth.
Well, looks like I got a wrong score. Anyway.
Yeah, Mahadi.
Thank you, Vivan. During this pandemic, we are all concerned about our health, and we have every right to be. Every day is filled with caution about how this dreadful era will end, but we've been mainly focusing on our physical health, will we get infected, and etc. But we also need to remember another very important part, our mental health. You may not even notice how your mental health is slowly descending while you're cooped up and stressed. So what is mental health and why is it so important? Well, let's get to it. As a brief description, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of your life, from childhood through adulthood. Having a positive mental health can help you succeed in life in every way. From this, I hope you can infer that it is very important. Your mental state can affect your physical health very greatly and might be harmful if it's negative. We have covered only a bit about mental health, but now let's go to the big point of my presentation on the next slide. In 2018, a study was conducted about mental health, and the stats were very harmful, especially to the youth. So let's cover them. 1 in 5 adults have a mental health condition. That's over 40 million Americans. Youth mental health is worsening. Rates of youth with severe depression increased from 5.9% in 2012 to 8.2% in 2015. Even with severe depression, 76% of youth are left without no or insufficient treatment. More Americans have access to these services. Access to insurance and treatment increased as healthcare reform has reduced the rates of uninsured adults. The greatest decrease in uninsured adults with mental illnesses was seen in states that expanded Medicaid, but most Americans still lack access to care. 56% of American adults with mental illnesses do not receive treatments. There is a serious mental health workforce shortage. In states with the lowest workforce, there are only up to 6 times the individuals with only one mental health professional. This includes psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, counselors, and psychiatric nurses combined. In 2018, it was worse, but now let's talk about the even more unfortunate stats of 2020 to 2021 on the next slide. The number of people looking for help with anxiety and depression has skyrocketed. From January to September 2020, 300,000 people took over an anxiety screen and about a 93% increase over the 2019 total number of anxiety screens. 500,000 people took the depression screen and a 62% increase over the 2019 total number of depression screens. The number of people screening with moderate to severe symptoms of depression and anxiety has continued to increase throughout 2020 and remains higher than rates prior to COVID-19. In September 2020, the rate of moderate to severe anxiety peaked, with over 8 in 10 people who took an anxiety screening scoring with the moderate to severe symptoms. Over 8 in 10 people who took a depression screening have scored with symptoms of moderate to severe consistently since the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. More people are reporting frequent thoughts of suicide and self-harm than they have been recorded in the MHA screening program since its launch in 2014. Since the COVID-19 pandemic has begun to spread rapidly in March 2020, over 100,000 people have reported frequent suicidal ideation. 37% of people reported having thoughts of suicide more than half or nearly every day in September 2020. Young people are struggling the most with their mental health. The portion of youth ages 11 to 17 who accessed screening was 9% higher than the average in 2019. Not only the number of youth searching for help with their mental health increasing, but throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, youth ages 11 to 17 have been more likely than any other age group to score for moderate to severe symptoms of anxiety and depression. Rates of suicidal ideations are highest among the youth, especially in the LGBTQ+ community. In September 2020, over half of the 11 to 17-year-olds reported having thoughts of suicide or self-harm more than half or nearly every day of the previous 2 weeks. From January to September 2020, 77,000 youth reported experiencing frequent suicidal ideation, including the 27,000 LGBTQ+ youth. People screening at risk for mental health conditions are struggling the most with loneliness or isolation. From April to September 2020, among people who had screened with moderate or severe symptoms of anxiety or depression, 70% reported that one of the top 3 things contributing to their mental health concerns was loneliness or isolation. The mental health of our country is in chaos. But before I go to my solutions, I want to take a second to talk about me. During the pandemic, my mind was constantly overrun with stress and trying to clear out my mind. But instead, my mental state got worse. I stayed up at night and started procrastinating on my work a lot. I was genuinely suffering more than I had before because of the pandemic. From what I have seen on social media and also from people I personally know, they have developed anxiety, depression, and many other mental illnesses. I wouldn't want anyone to suffer, so please take the solutions on the next slide. The first one is to take care of your body. Studies show that exercising is a main part of your mental health and could improve it immensely, even by sleeping more or less, depending on you, or taking baths and relaxing. The first step to recovery is to want to, and by taking care, you will. The second is to seek professional help. If you think that you are in the state of mind that is very, very severe, please get diagnosed and go to a therapist. That will be so much better for you, and you can get the meds and therapy that you deserve. The third one is to get in touch with others, also helps immensely. Social works and beings are a major part. If you have lost touch with friends, talk to them, whether it's over the phone or practicing safe meetups. The fourth one is to get everything out. As I said before, the first step is recognition that you are not doing well and that you need help. One thing I recommend is to tell somebody you trust that you've been feeling and get out all the cooped up feelings out. You can even use a tape recorder, voice memos, video, writing, drawing, or anything. My second to last is to be productive. In order to pull yourself out of the hole that you fell into, slowly finish your work, make a new hobby, and really enjoy life. And finally, focus on being positive. I saw this story sometime from depression and getting out of it. Some people still miss the feeling of being sad. When you're doing better, I hope you don't. Think of things that you'll truly need and why you want to be great. It'll help, I promise. Thank you so much, and make sure to pay attention to the state of your mind.
Thank you, Mahadi. It surprised me that many people were suffering from depression. Thank you, Mahadi. I found it very interesting that many people suffered from depression or anxiety. Anyway, next we have Arush on business. Yeah.
Thank you, Vivon. So I'm going to be talking about COVID's effect on the economy and businesses. So some advantages that COVID had was that many companies like game makers or delivery people were benefited by COVID-19 because everyone was staying home and they needed to bring stuff from outside and bring it home. So that's why deliveries were benefited. And also people were really bored in quarantine. So game makers were also very benefited. Also, Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and TV show and movie providers like that are getting a lot of money due to people not being able to go in person for movie theaters. Other online services like YouTube, Amazon, and others are being benefited a lot because of online revenue, delivery, ad revenue, and all of that. Some disadvantages of the economy are that the stock market is always low. There are a couple businesses like GameStop and others that are very high, but most of the stock market is very low. Also, restaurants lose a lot of money. McDonald's, Taco Bell, all of those are losing a lot of money due to not being able to serve people food other than like DoorDash or Grubhub or something like that. People aren't also able to be going in person for work, which is a big issue because that is what boosts most of the economy. A lot of people are getting fired, and a lot of businesses are also being shut down due to the lack of customers. And they're not like big businesses. They're all small starting up businesses, which can impact a lot. Thank you.
Wow. I didn't necessarily see that coming on businesses being affected. So, yeah, thank you, Arush. Next we have Mukta.
Thanks, Vivon. Okay. While we have been talking about COVID in the United States, it's important that we talk about countries that are still on the journey of developing. Today, I will be talking about 4 major countries worldwide that have been hit by COVID hard. The first country is Brazil. Brazil has about 15.1 million cases in total, which amounts to about 9% of COVID cases worldwide as of today. But according to sources, including the US National Library of Medicine and the National Institutes of Health, these cases might not be the correct estimate. The country's health system is almost on the brink of collapsing as the number of cases being reported are being highly underestimated. Brazil's economy has also been hit hard as the crisis pushed out about 84% of the labor market into vulnerability. On May 28th, the President of the Republic, Jair Bolsonaro, signed Complementary Law 173/2020, which allowed the granting of federal aid of approximately $60.15 billion to states, municipalities, and the federal district to strengthen the actions of combating the new COVID. Except this hasn't had that much of an impact. On top of that, Bolsonaro's approach to minimizing COVID hasn't been helping the country on the road to recovery, as he has been minimizing what COVID actually looks like. The next country is South Africa, whose cases total up to about 1.6 million. While this country hasn't been affected as much as the other 3 countries and is now considered a developed country, it still has one of the highest number of cases worldwide. Its healthcare system has taken a toll but is on the way to recovery as cases are decreasing and more patients are leaving hospital beds. In addition, South Africa's economy was also not so great. The country's economy wasn't in great shape even before the lockdown. It was hit hard by the global financial crisis in 2008, recording average growth just about 2% between 2008 and 2012. And now the National Treasury has forecast that the economy will contract by 7.8% due to COVID-19 measures. 2 weeks ago, South Africa started its COVID vaccine campaign to vaccinate almost 40 million people. Moving on to the third country, Russia. Russia has almost 4.8 million total cases of COVID. Its economy fell into a deep recession in September of 2020, with almost a GDP contract of 5.2%. As of now, the economy has recovered by 0.6% and is still working its way up. In regards to its healthcare, Russia has been vaccinating its citizens with Sputnik, the first vaccine that was made public. The problem lies in Russia's citizens, who, according to a recent poll, almost 60 to 70% either do not want to be vaccinated or, according to Russian traditions, are not supposed to. With this, it is estimated that to complete vaccinations in Russia, it will take another 2 years. The last and most important country I'll be talking about is India. India, as you have seen on the news, has been hit the hardest from COVID, with a total of almost 22 million cases. This makes up about 15% of all COVID cases worldwide. Now, I'm assuming a majority of you have already been up to date with India's current state from the news. So here's a quick video on the next slide explaining the situation in the parts of India that have been affected the most.
काफ़ी स्टेट्स ऐसी हैं जहां पर एक इंक्रीजिंग ट्रेंड फर्दर नोट किया जा रहा है, जिसमें मुख्यतः कर्नाटका, केरला, तमिलनाडु, आंध्र प्रदेश कंटेन की दृष्टि से कैसे उन केसेस को कंट्रोल करें, कैसे इन्फेक्शन के स्प्रेड को रोकें, उस पर हमारा कार्य हमारा उसी कंटिन्यूड मोमेंटम से चलता रहे, इसकी बहुत आवश्यकता है।
district in charge ministers have been given full authority to bring COVID cases under control. In order to procure additional oxygen and remdesivir, major discussions has taken. I am also continuously in touch with central government in this regard. More number of COVID case centers would be opened in the districts.
Vivon, you can stop the video now. Yeah, okay. So as you can tell by the video and what you've seen online, I'm sure that that video has brought a lot of emotion, and you can actually see the realities and problems with vaccinations and social distancing, and that vaccinations, oxygen shortages, and bed shortages have played a major role in the spread. So on my next slide, I will be talking about some major steps we can take in order to have a quick and safe recovery for India. Okay. One way to take action from outside of India is to try your best to donate money or share petitions. Some reliable organizations to donate to include Imana or Imana Cares on Instagram, and also mutualaidindia.com. Furthermore, if you have any family in India, make sure that you are checking in on their mental health and promoting being safe, being socially distant, and washing their hands frequently. Try to also encourage them to stay home unless it's an emergency. Mental health during this time, as my sister said, is very, very important and can play a major role in COVID. Vaccinations are also important, so make sure to see if any of your local pharmacies have leftover vaccines. According to khn.org, CVS and Walgreens have thrown out almost 190,000 vaccines due to people not showing up or not wanting to take them in the last year. If this is the case for any of your local pharmacies, encourage them to figure out a way to ship those vaccines to countries like India, Brazil, or even different states in the United States that needs them. I hope you found this presentation helpful, and thank you for coming. Back to Vivon.
Thank you, Mukta. I do understand that this being a very serious situation in India and other countries furthermore in the developing countries zone. So now on to the Q&A interaction session. Our slides have been completed. Lish, do you have a question? Because
I just have something to say about throwing out the vaccines. Now, Rite Aid is no longer throwing out vaccines, and it's just giving them out to people who don't have appointments if someone wasn't able to make it to their appointment.
Yeah, excuse me, nobody mentioned anything about throwing out vaccines, just so you know.
Yeah, I was talking about CVS and Walgreens. I wasn't talking about Rite Aid. According to the statistics
Got myself mixed up.
that I did, CVS and Walgreens.
Yeah, Mahadi and Mukta, just to let you know, you're very laggy. So, okay.
Revive.
Now we have what?
We have the Q&A still.
Yeah, I know. We don't need to share our screen during this time. Okay, so one question we have is, what has been affected most? So what do you think, guys?
No idea, really. I'm pretty sure it's the, like Mukta said, developing countries.
True. They did say that they were being hit hard.
Oh yeah, and maybe they should start planting more trees to get more oxygen. That would help clear away COVID.
So here's the problem in that. There's no way to get the oxygen.
You sound like firecrackers.
That sounds. What do you mean?
Oh, your mic just went ballistic and started sounding like fireworks.
Does everyone else hear me right?
Yeah, we hear you better now.
We can hear you fine.
Okay. So, here's the problem in that plant oxygen is not necessarily the problem for breathing. We mean as in getting oxygen and supplying it to the ventilators. You know what a ventilator is? Wish?
Yeah, I'm just saying that another way to get more oxygen in the environment is to plant trees.
True, that would be for like climate change or something. That would be a different topic. Oh yeah, that should be the next topic, climate change, because we did COVID this time. Anyway, so what do you think has? Oh wait, no. Does anybody else have any opinion? How about you, Parim? Uh, Anshuman? Anybody?
Can you repeat the question really quick? I think.
Yeah, what has been affected most? Like of the topics we talked today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Developing countries, obviously, like I said, people's mental health, like my sister said. Um, I mean, what did Arush said something about business going up for like Netflix and stuff. I mean, obviously that's a more, that's a good thing for those kinds of businesses, but definitely, like staying in and being on your phone all
Yeah,
day.
necessarily I didn't mention about it the effect as being bad or good. So I guess that's a point. Uh, I don't know about like I don't know if it's a really good question because pretty much all of the topics all of us chose had a really big impact on each, so there's not much comparison. We're not saying impact on COVID. We're saying impact on the. I know. I'm saying how COVID impacted all of our topics. All of our topics had a lot of impact. Let's take Vish's topic for example. Vaccination only happened because of COVID. I mean, vaccination was affected less than, let's say, developing countries. That's what it would mean.
I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I guess.
And
Um,
what has been affected least?
I think what's been affected least is probably actually it would have kind of been restaurants because there's still like DoorDash and stuff, and it still got like around the same money, but it was a little harder for some of those like very local restaurants that didn't have like Uber Eats or DoorDash at that time.
I guess it could also be online platforms like YouTube. YouTube hasn't been affected. The YouTube did not go through updates. They did not do anything new. And also Facebook, WhatsApp, and all that stuff. They didn't add any new features. It's probably they're going to add it, but I guess the online platforms haven't been affected. They're only being used more.
Yeah, that was a good answer. I had a quick question. So,
Yeah.
how do you guys think that, after, COVID has kind of gone and we've kind of recovered mostly, like, how do you think the future will look like? Because I feel like a lot of the things that we've implemented will keep like doing online. Like, I feel like a lot of things will just be online now, and like online school will be more available, and like, so how do you think that'll look?
Hmm. I would say it would return to normal things like it would look exactly like post COVID and like yeah, exactly like post COVID because there would be the COVID virus would still be around. Some people would still die, but it would be completely fine as if everyone was minding their own business. People could go back to their schools and offices. I don't think much would change. I mean, we know that companies have future plans like flying cars or self-driving cars, but we don't necessarily know if a lot are going to change. Wish, you can go. What's your question?
Well, not really Q&A, but just to say, you should present the one after the Q&A.
One.
Made something to end the live streaming.
Oh. Yeah, we don't necessarily do anything after the Q&A session, just so you know. So I guess that
Yeah.
was all. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
let's
Philip.
like if anybody wants to add anything or is how do you think, if I could ask this question, how like you're hearing people who are in India has been affected. So what has been your reaction, or what the steps, or what are the things that you are doing to help, or to, the very basic, are you even facing that? Or if you are, then what are you doing?
I guess all of us are by staying inside. Now, hopefully, we're also washing our hands. Um, there may be other things that we're doing. Possibly, some of us are donating, like Mahari or Mukta said. I don't necessarily know any others. You can add if you want.
Personally, I've been trying to spread awareness as much as I could. I recently made an infographic for one of my organizations, YLM, Youth Leaders in Medicine, to try to bring awareness to the realities of what they're facing so that we can not only encourage them to, wash their hands and stay inside and social distance, but also other people to do the same so that they can kind of encourage that. Because I feel like a lot of even world leaders are like kind of minimizing the effects and like, oh, it's nothing, it's just like another flu or something like that, which obviously takes a toll on how the people look at it. So yeah, I mean, that's something that I've been personally doing. But
Yeah, now that I think about it, we're also spreading awareness by talking about COVID at this webinar's topic, aren't we?
Absolutely, that's our goal. But what I was asking was more substantially. Yes, Mahati, what you said, sorry, Mukta, what you said makes sense. Anybody else? Anything from your part? Why the reason why I ask this is that when we do not hear um, somebody, our very near or dear ones have been affected, we really cannot empathize with with others. So but as humanity, if we can do that, if we can uh, take that one step forward and see what we can do, uh, where somebody is suffering, that would be something that we can do and we should do. And another thing which comes to my mind is being grateful in the very first place. If we have been doing good, and if we could avoid COVID, then we should be grateful that we are doing good and the people around us are also taking care. And that can be also helping us, that if we are not affected, then let's not think we are heroes and superheroes, but being grateful and trying to reach out to others to help with whatever we can. Yes, Vish, go ahead. You had something to say?
No, I just accidentally left it back on.
Okay. Anybody else wants to add? I did not hear Arush for a long time. Arush,
Yeah.
any take? Anything that you think we could do as a community?
Yeah, like I think something is that like road something is like donating to charity in like hospitals, like especially rural ones, because I this was like a while ago, but Nihar said like how much rural healthcare was struggling in a lot. So I think it would be really helpful if like someone set up like a bake sale or some kind of fundraiser. Because actually, in my neighborhood, a couple days ago, there was a bake sale going on for children at for children, and they donated all the proceeds to there. So like something like that would be very helpful, like either a lemonade stand or a bake sale or something like that.
Yeah. And being very, very careful because, and if done by one family, that would definitely help. So, yeah, good thinking, everyone. We will be, after we are offline, then we'll be talking about the next week's topics. So, anybody who wants to participate, please join the Zoom link and we will go on deciding on our next topic. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining in. Vivan, as usual, you did a great job. There were some uh, issues with the mic, with your voice, but I think next time it will be fixed. But yeah, hope have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Saturday. Bye.
Thank you.
Time to stop live stream.